These may be kids' books, but we discuss dark themes and mature content. There may also be some explicit language. Listener discretion is advised. But we're joined today by a special guest, the famous...
That's right.
Of email fame.
Of email fame, yes. I think our first email was from you, CJ.
Possibly. I mean, that...
Wait, I sent an email first.
Okay, it was probably Chris.
I sent that email where I was really upset with something Eddie said in episode 1.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
That never got read online. On air. Yeah.
But I said it before, but thank you very much for having me. It's really, really great to be here.
Yeah, we're so excited that we're excited. You're excited. We're excited. Yeah. You're excited. It's just a great loop of excitation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
we're like electrons here.
And my understanding is that you're joining us for book 19 because this is the best book we've read so far, maybe. And every book after this is going to be as good as this one. I think that's like
forever.
That's right.
I mean, you are admittedly in a pretty great stretch at the moment. In all honesty, like
they refer to it as the Animorphs plateau.
Not to I don't want to go into it obviously about future books or whatever, but the ones that come immediately after 19 are also pretty great, and I'm sure a lot of people who enjoy listening to you guys, like me, are really looking forward to hearing what you think of those books, because there's going to be a lot for you guys to talk about.
Yeah, we're really excited.
But 19 is definitely a personal favorite of mine, as well as sort of generally considered to be one of the best books in the series. So
I can see why, at least so far. I mean, we've read the whole book, except Chris, who hasn't read the book at all.
Yep.
Who's never read a book.
I don't know how to read, and I've been getting away with it for the past 4 years. Actually,
only
the past
4?
34
Did
years.
you learn? Did you forget how to read 4 years?
Yes.
Right when we started the podcast.
It was my 30th birthday.
Really unfortunate.
I remember it like it was yesterday.
Also, before we started recording, I asked you about your sweater.
Oh, yes.
Sweatshirt, yeah.
It says the Sharing Youth Group.
Oh, hell yeah. Be part of something bigger in brackets.
That's really good. That's so good.
So this was actually a gift from my brother, because like myself, he's a big fan of the series. And it's really because of him that I got into the books, because he had books, I want to say probably around 1 through 30 or so.
Oh, wow.
Plus most of the Megamorphs and I think the first 2 Chronicles books.
Wow.
Yeah.
Extensive collection by some means.
Yeah. So I had those already to start with, and I was a really fast reader as a kid, and he kind of picked up pretty early on that seemed like something I'd be into, and I very much was, and I tore through them and revisited them when I got a bit older, kind of over and over. When I was a teenager, especially, I really kind of entered this phase where I got super into them and basically never left, even though it sort of ebbed and flowed, over time. Mm-hmm. Because I think it really is a very fascinating series to reevaluate when you get older. Which is why I think there's so many podcasts about it, honestly.
There's
even
a lot of content to be made.
Yeah, even though it's sort of like this niche, fandom, that's really pretty small in comparison to a lot of other things. There's a lot to discuss about it, and there's really nothing quite like it.
Totally agree. And it seems to have affected everyone who read it in some way or another. It's not everybody sees it the same way, not everybody, but everybody who sort of intersected with the series at some point in their life has a memory of that intersection, even if they didn't read the whole series, even if they only read one book. It seems like a lot of people.
Even if it's just the little flip books in the corner because you don't know how to read like me. And you refer to books as boxes.
CJ, did your brother pitch you on it, or do you remember what
what was that moment like? Did your brother get a kickback, or
was there an elevator pitch for reading Animorphs?
Was it
I don't know if I remember the specific moment. He was older, so he babysat a lot. And I was always pretty into like fantasy sci-fi stuff ever since I was super, super little. Like, so I think he knew when I was becoming someone who was super into reading that it was likely something I would enjoy as I got like right into that age range.
Yeah.
You know, so he was like, yeah, you should check these out. And it was always a fun thing that we could talk about even at that age, because he's like 7 years older than me. So there was a bit of an age gap, you know, and that was always a really nice thing and still is to this day, which is nice.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah. I wish I could say that the books bonded me to important people in my life, but I just can't.
It's just no one I can think of who would be on that list.
No sibling or best friend since I was 5.
Do you remember?
And I also, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, CJ.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I had wanted to find other Animorphs related stuff that I own to show you guys on camera, because I know I have a couple of things that I think used to be his also, buried away in like memento boxes somewhere. But because we're still unpacking, I couldn't find them. One of them is like this old holographic sign where it had like, on one side, if you held it a certain way, it would say just, you know, the Animorphs logo. But then if you flipped it a little in brackets, it would say, join us.
Oh,
you know, in like
so
dramatic
cool.
font.
Nice.
And I had that taped up above my closet for ages when I was a kid.
That's awesome.
And then I have a couple of other things too, but unfortunately I couldn't find them in all of our boxes yet. So I had made sure to wear the sweatshirt. But,
that's awesome.
What were you going to ask?
I was going to say I moved 5 years ago and I still haven't unpacked everything. So like, that's amazing.
It happens. When we first started recording, we talked a lot about like the Scholastic book fairs and seeing the covers. Do you remember, like, was there like a period where like you were just like looking at the books, or is there like a cover that you feel like burned into your memory?
Oh, quite a few. I was super into the covers when I was a kid, because it's definitely, I think, like you look at them now and there's, you know, they can definitely be kind of goofy, and that's part of its charm for sure. But at the time when you weren't used to seeing that sort of thing on book covers at all, it really was like quite interesting and unique. And I loved doing the flip book thing. I have the physical copy of book 19 with me in my sticky notes.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
Mine is just out of reach, but yeah.
But no, I love doing that, especially with the bigger books, like the Chronicles books, you know, that had the longer ones. I really love doing it with those, yeah.
The Andalite Chronicles one had one that was really, really detailed.
That one was one of my favorites.
It has like planets orbiting and then a a Z space.
Yeah,
opens,
it like shifts for each part of the story, which was really cool. And it's like the ship going through Z space and then the time matrix portal or something like that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And I thought it was the coolest thing when I was a kid. I still think it's really cool.
It's still the coolest thing.
I don't know why I imagined Axe morphing into, what is it, a convertible that he drives in that book? Or not Axe,
weirdly, it's like the Transformers toys. They made that into reality regardless.
Yeah.
Some of the Digimon toys do that still, but also did that when I was a kid, that they could evolve into a tiny version of their bigger Digimon self. They'd start as like a medium-sized version of their baby self, and then they would turn into a relatively small version of their bigger self.
That's so funny.
Oh man.
Yeah, do you have a complete collection? I feel like this is a weird question.
I do not.
So, no judgment.
I'm still working on mine as well.
Yeah.
Like I have basically what you just described, like up to 30, a little bit beyond, and a bunch, and any book we've read, I own a copy of.
Yeah, I have a little bit beyond what was originally my brother's collection, but not by a lot. There's a big chunk in the middle I'm still missing, and I don't have the last few either. And I don't own Visser, which is disappointing because I really love that one as well. But I do have all the Megamorphs now.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
And some of my favorites that are after 30 as well.
Nice.
Because even though that's well into the ghostwritten era, like there's some really good ones in there. Like I think the ghostwritten books get a little bit of a bad reputation by and large, when I think on the whole, just generally speaking, they're just pretty okay. Like some of them are really good. Like there are some that are like really good, standout favorite books. And then there are others that like really just a couple that are really not that great in my opinion. But
is this like gonna be like a Twin Peaks season 2 situation?
I have not seen it, so I can't say. But
I'll just say, like, it's like in Twin Peaks season 2, it's like David Lynch just wandered off, and other people wrote the show for a while, and it really doesn't feel like itself.
I mean, from what I understand, it's more that like you can just sort of tell when K.A. Applegate is not behind the seat. For the most part, like I said, there are some like that are really, really good, and you're like, wow, like these are totally like they're in there with all the other greats out of the series for me, in my opinion.
Oh my god, we should track down a ghostwriter to interview.
I would like to do that. Yeah,
because I think we should use that as like a bargaining chip with KA to be like, we know you don't do interviews, but we're so desperate, we're literally talking to people who you tangentially know.
We can ask the ghostwriter to pretend to be KA.
If you don't agree to be on our podcast, we're gonna let them say that they wrote Animorphs. It sounds a little bit like if you were to think of now. It's not true that the only good X-Files episodes were Mythos episodes. But it sounds a little bit...
Some of the Monsters of the Week are my favorite.
I know. But it sounds a little bit like if you think of the idea that only the Mythos episodes are the ones that were handled by K.A. and therefore have her and Michael's like sort of magic touch and idea for the series, it sounds like the ones that they were like, these are important story points that have to get hit, maybe stood out and were better because they were more fleshed out before they got written, and like maybe some of the ones in between were unfortunate kind of throwaway books. But
yeah, I mean, it's definitely hard to say. I certainly wasn't in their heads, and I know they wrote a lot of it like on the fly by necessity. But I would imagine that like for sure when it comes to like really big important character stuff, that it definitely does show through more, even like in the section of books that are ghostwritten. And, among those, you still get the Megamorphs books and the other Chronicles books. And all of those are great, in my opinion. Megamorphs 3 and 4 are also really, really good.
Hell yeah. I'm excited.
Do you get the fun thing where, like, depending on which ghostwriter it is, they have, like, an interesting interpretation of characters ever? Like this,
actually, yes.
Oh, really? Oh, that's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's only a couple of repeats that you notice. Most of them are different.
Really?
Yeah.
Don't wait.
Now we're going to be on the lookout for it.
Yeah.
I won't go into too much detail then.
Is it going to be like staring into Castiel's cerulean orbs? Like, are we going to notice certain phrases that come up a lot? Or like,
I would say it has to do more with, you'll notice perhaps that certain writers handle certain characters better.
Okay.
Oh, I can't wait.
I was going to say, like, what if it was, like, really embarrassing and it's, like, someone who went on to write another kid series that we all know.
If we could
like,
figure it out.
Just Chronicles of Narnia references out of nowhere. Or, like,
as
I know that was written 100 years ago. I know.
No, I think in honesty, that sort of goes for the ghostwriters as a whole. That the biggest thing you'll notice is that the K. Applegate books, they know how to handle all of the main characters.
Yeah.
They're their characters. They know them. And with the ghostwriters, you'll find, at least in my opinion, that's not always as true. Sometimes they'll get like a couple of them really well, but then one will feel kind of off or weird, and stuff like that. And not to say that doesn't happen, like, because, having focus on all the characters, sometimes one or two of them can feel a little off in a book, even with the K. Applegate ones. But you can definitely notice it happening a lot more with the ghostwritten books, I would say. But on the whole, like, they're not, like, awful to read at all, I don't think. And I think they tend to get a bit of a bad reputation, as I said before.
Yeah, it's sort of like we get treated to such a grand feast with some of the books that, like, if it's less than the standard that people are used to, which is so high, especially for, like, children's lit at the time, that, like, I can understand how any drop-off at all would feel like it was tanking. So it makes sense that some people respond more harshly to that.
Yeah. And I would say even in the ones that aren't as good, there will at least be like a couple of bits, like interactions between characters or whatever, where you're like, oh, that was really fun, or this was really memorable, or, whatever. Like, I'm really hard pressed to think of a book that doesn't stand out to me in one way or another, even if it's one I end up having a lot of like critical things to say about,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm realizing that when we went back in time to rewrite the books, we've left money on the table in that we didn't really monetize enough. We didn't put enough microtransactions in there. Like,
I mean, that's true.
Unlocking characters.
Oh,
stuff
especially
like that.
the Megamorphs books, where it's like, I'm sorry, if you want to see the chapters that Rachel narrates, unfortunately, you're going to have to subscribe at the $5 level. Or pay $10 now to get all narrators unlocked for the next 30 days.
And now that I just lived through another iteration of the time loop, I'm realizing that we did try this once, and it kind of got us in trouble because Venmo didn't exist in the 90s.
Right, yeah.
So it just
that would make it harder.
Hard to figure out. They thought it was a money laundering scheme. I'm remembering now.
Do you have theories as to why book 19 is so good then? Because, like, do you think it's, like, coming out of Fort Bajir Chronicles?
Yeah, what did we get so right in this?
I mean, there's so much to talk about with this one. And, obviously I haven't heard all of the episodes that you guys are going to put out yet. So I'm sure a lot of this could end up being things that you've discussed, like, plenty as is. But
don't worry about it.
I think the thing that really stands out about 19, and this is true for the series as a whole, in my opinion, but you really, really feel it with 19, is that it just takes its audience so seriously.
Yep.
It is not afraid to make its audience sit and think about stuff, because that's really all this book is. This book is not, even though there is a memorable action scene at the very beginning, this is not, and there's some cool bits, like Cassie is really awesome in this book in a lot of different ways. And she's, as someone who was a bit of a horse girl, she's also cool, like on that level as well. But a lot of this book is just people sitting and talking, basically. Yeah. And they weren't worried about whether or not, well, I wouldn't say like they weren't worried necessarily. Like maybe, they probably did know that like there were going to be kids who didn't vibe with it, or adults even who were like, why are you putting this in a kid's book, Yeah. But they trusted the fact that there were going to be plenty of kids in the audience who did, who read it and were really moved by it. And I was one of those kids.
It does feel like I think we said in one of the first episodes that it almost feels like the most like theater out of all of the books that we've read so far.
Oh, you like a play. Like it's like a stage play.
Yeah.
Like it's got that.
It feels, it's very intimate.
Yeah. Yes. And you just have two characters talking and having this intense conversation, this argument.
And I didn't think about it until just now, but CJ, I don't know how much Star Trek you know, but
bits and pieces. I've seen a lot of Next Gen, not a ton beyond that.
There's a pretty famous episode of Next Gen with a person who speaks only in metaphor.
Oh, yeah.
And
I think I know that one, yeah.
Almost all of the episode is just Picard and this member of an alien species who speaks only Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra. Yeah. And there's a middle portion where he tells this alien about he tells him the story, like the Epic of Gilgamesh, and they use that as like common ground to find metaphors they can like bond over. They have to fight like an invisible monster, which was not for budget reasons, I'm sure.
Right. But
definitely
not.
But it's just
God, we should put invisible monsters in the book so we save money.
But like, I remember the first time I saw it, I think if I'd seen it as a kid, I don't know how I would have felt, but I was only in my teens the first time I saw it. And I was really impressed at how interesting they could make an episode that was primarily a scary monster we didn't understand occasionally attacking, and two people talking and trying to understand each other.
And that's very much this book, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much this book. And it's really interesting, actually. And it's almost to the point that it's frustrating when the leopard does attack, because you really wanted to know what Cassie and Karen and we're going to say to each other next.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the leopard thing definitely interrupts their very interesting conversations. It's so funny to me on another level, though, because I grew up in this rural small town, and we lived really close to like these mountains and other things like that. And so more than once in elementary school, we had to stay in during recess because like a cougar or a mountain lion was like spotted too close to the school. Yeah. And so whenever I would read this book, I always thought of that. And even though it's not remotely like really similar at all, in my brain, I was like, oh my God. It's just like
close enough, yeah. I think the worst we had.
Cassie was encountering a leopard. Oh my God!
I don't think we ever had a lion canceling school.
We had a skunk.
We just had the regular. Oh,
we weren't allowed to go in the back in the field for recess because there was a skunk. We had to stay inside because
that's dangerous as a mountain lion.
I think we could have taken that.
I think they taught us in Animorphs how to take care of it when it happens. It would have been fine.
It's grape juice, right? That's what you guys told me after we finished.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm glad you remember.
Yeah.
Just thinking of that, did you identify with Cassie more, or like was Cassie like a standout like point of identification for you?
Yeah, I would say so. When I was a kid, I've always liked all of them, and I always enjoyed like reading all of their books. But I would definitely say that Cassie, Rachel, and Marco were my favorites when I was a kid. Though it would have been really hard for me even then to pick a favorite, but I very much I think I would have wished a bit more that I was like Rachel, but I identified a lot more personally with Cassie. I was really into animals. I was a little bit of a horse girl, like I said. And so I really loved reading the books from their perspectives in particular. I always have.
I feel like your dogs are just getting progressively bigger as they walk past in the background.
So we saw the dog.
Well, Eddie, you know how like when things are far away, they appear small?
It is funny though, because the first dog we saw was the bigger dog, but then just in sequence very quickly, we saw the smaller dog come through and then the larger dog enter from the same side that the smaller dog left on. So it sort of seemed like it had...
I think this episode should be titled "The First Dog We Saw Was the Bigger Dog."
It's almost like your dog is morphing into another dog. No. There's simply two dogs. Sometimes the answer, it's like when Cassie is trying to convince Karen. It's like, don't be silly, crazy girl. I'm just a normal girl. And that's what your dog is doing the whole time. But have you ever seen them both in the same room?
Rarely, actually, because Zelda does not like other dogs very much. But
last Star Trek thing, because I don't want to exclude Edwin, but the other episode that it reminds me of where it's like very limited in scope and character is the one where they have to defend Data's personhood to be a Starfleet person, and it's just like similarly an episode that's all about the big question. Like it's
we just sit and
Star
talk.
Trek's great, Eddie. That's our next topic after Animorphs.
That's true. Even with only the little bits of it that I've seen, that's true.
It's enough that they're going to replace me with you, CJ, for the Star Trek podcast.
Chris just is always trying to start new podcasts. It's Revolutionary Girl Lieutenant. It's Star Trek. It's Twin Peaks.
Really true. I didn't want to do Twin Peaks. That one's covered.
So you talked about what got you into the books, but so how old were you when you first read your first Animorphs book?
Oh, gosh. I want to say probably in the 7 to 8 area.
Whoa,
hell yeah.
Cool. So yeah.
I wasn't cool enough yet. I was in a Magic Treehouse back then. It's not cool. It's not as cool.
I also liked Magic Treehouse, but
it's still cool.
Yeah. Do you remember how
my library had as much Animorphs? They had a lot of Magic Treehouse though. I was allowed to go to that
out
shelf.
Of sequence. I definitely had that with the library where you'd have like book 13, book 15, but you would be you just have a lot of gaps,
and I'd keep going back to see if someone was going to return it, but it would be like, you can have it out for 2 weeks. I'm like, 2 weeks? That's a lifetime.
Oh, yeah. Well, I definitely experienced that of sequence thing with Animorphs because I didn't read the full series until I super got into it again as a teenager. So the library that was at my school and my public library didn't have all that many of them. And the ones they did have were super scattered and from much, much later in the series. So I ended up going from like book 30 to somewhere like in the 40, 48, 46, area, somewhere like that. And so much had happened in those in between books, and just picking up one of them, I was like, oh my gosh, I missed a lot.
Yeah.
That was really, how it was in the child reading from the library times. Though.
Yeah.
Even television was kind of like that. Like, you'd be watching Nickelodeon and they put, like, an episode earlier in a series right next to an episode at the end of a series, and you'd be like, God damn it.
Yeah, well, that's why
my vibe is totally thrown off. Like,
yeah, well, that's why they have the recaps, at the beginning of every book.
Right.
Like,
true.
Even though they're, like, when you're reading them all at once, they get tedious. Like, at the time, they absolutely were necessary.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Even if you were just reading them, like, on release schedule, like a month apart, I feel like that would have been, because I watch TV and even a week apart, I'm glad that they're highlighting not only what happened, but what's going to be important this episode.
Yeah. When Eddie and I were watching Andor recently, I insisted we watch the recaps just in case I misinterpreted something. I was like, maybe I didn't quite pick it up right.
Yeah.
Just gotta
and there's
make
only
sure.
5 things per episode in those episodes. They really chew the fat in those episodes.
Yeah.
I didn't watch
really
Andor yet.
Yeah.
So.
It's great.
Don't spoil it
it's
too
really
much.
good.
CJ,
They all die.
Oh,
yes,
thanks.
yeah. When we were talking about this book, one of the things that we talked about was, so you mentioned like that they take the reader so seriously, and especially like young readers. Do you remember, like, so the one line that came up for us was when Karen's talking about slavery as like a human concept or something like that, and just like introducing these weighty things. Do you remember how that felt for you as a reader when you were younger? Because that, like, we were thinking, like, how would you even wrap your head around some of these things when you're like 9 years old, 10 years old, reading it as a kid?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can't say, like, I remember every single detail, obviously, but I do remember a lot of it. And there's a reason it stuck with me, even as I got older. It really came through. It got me thinking about it in ways that I hadn't necessarily up until that point.
Yeah.
I had a little bit. I was, I identified with Cassie, like I said. So I was always like a pretty sensitive kid. And there are other kids' books who just that discuss things like war and all that sort of thing. So it wasn't as if it was entirely, new concepts to my head in that sense. But it definitely really, really hit me at the time still, where I think in part because the Yeerks are so inherently inhuman, that makes the point stronger. Kind of like, I think I mentioned in an email a while back with the Andalite Chronicles with the Taxons, because they're these giant, like, centipede things that are sort of designed to be inherently terrifying and disgusting. That it really helps to...
We will fight you too.
I know.
Very cute, I'll have you know.
I know.
We all just made very disapproving faces. But continue.
I saw it.
Continue. You are a guest. Continue.
If you follow that line of thought,
Yes.
then it really helps, I think, to underscore the themes that even something that is so inherently not like yourself is something that is worthy of empathy and understanding, and for you to consider things from their point of view, and that you can do all of that and still understand that this thing is doing something wrong.
Yeah. It's in some ways it's more complex than adult media that I'm sure was coming out then. I haven't read a lot of it, but definitely that is coming out now. It feels very simple to fall into like very black and white narratives, but like to get such a long series, I feel like they really had time. And I know some of the books wound up being ghostwritten, but like they really had time to explore this idea of like, well, what if you were that creature who wanted something? You would feel like you were entitled to it, but that's still wrong, actually. It's still wrong to do bad things to people.
Yeah. And also the slow build up to asking these kinds of questions about its own characters and this, like, the beings, the world. Like, the fact that it's book 19, like, they don't know how far they're going to go with this series, probably, and they don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they didn't rush it. They didn't do it by book 12, you know, like, or even book 6. Like, it's,
you know, it's like DMing. It's so hard. It's like
Dungeon Master. I thought you meant direct
GMing.
messages. Yeah.
No, sorry. Like, like running a game. But it's like, you're like, how long should this arc go? Like, will my players get through it, or like, will we still be going? But continue, Ed. I was yes and.
It's also, I feel like it's no mistake that it's just after Hork-Bajir Chronicles too. Like, these are clearly things that they're thinking about as they're writing the books at this moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. And I think the thing that's really interesting about rereading the series again and again in particular is that you really notice that even though obviously this is the point where they're really digging into these ideas, the seeds for them are planted a lot earlier on. Like, there are a lot of earlier small moments in the series that make you think of the Yeerks as more than just these sort of interchangeable slug creatures.
Yeah.
I always forget that kid's name, but back in book 8, the one who had a Yeerk lover or whatever.
I remember the lover's name, but not the Yeerk. The lover's name was Durain.
Durain.
Yes.
I can see clearly now Durain is gone. That's right. But I can't remember his name. And it was,
these little mnemonics are so helpful.
I just remember because it's like the fruit.
Oh, like a durian,
Yeah.
Wow, that I just learned about a new fruit today.
You don't want to eat it. You don't want to eat it.
I'm not a fan of them either.
Oh, do they have them in Zelda?
I'm pretty sure.
It's like, I think that's the one that's like a misdemeanor offense to like cut one open on a train in some country because they're just very smelly. They don't taste as bad as they smell, but getting through the smell is a lot.
To pivot back into the conversation before, I really was not expecting to be as impressed as I am with like how many headspaces the books occupy. And how like I think you put it really well a minute ago about just like considering other people's perspectives, but the book is like just training you to do that by like giving you the like kinesthetic, what is that? It's like the kinesthetic learning. Is that what they call it?
Oh, like when you actually have to
Kinetic?
experience something.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're letting you like live out the brain hopping in a way that you wouldn't get otherwise. And then like there are characters that then are like pushed away for longer arcs, such as the Yeerks and the Hork-Bajir. And it's incredibly effective. Like
it is.
It's really exciting.
Just seeing the world through the eyes of different characters who are still like you and you still sort of like understand, like it helps bring
and imagining
it to your level.
Being like younger as well and like getting that much information.
But then with Hork-Bajir Chronicles having no human characters for the majority of the book, they took a really big leap and they put a lot of trust in and they laid the groundwork.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say they laid the groundwork with getting you to sympathize with the Andalites, even if they're already starting to make you question them, and then they make you question them more in Hork-Bajir Chronicles, which is just leading to the should we be questioning humans decision, you know, or question like.
And it makes me realize we can, like, you know, most Americans learned empathy when they watched Lost for the first time, because that was the first show that they watched that did that.
They flashed back every episode.
Exactly.
To somebody else's life.
Exactly. And I
haven't developed empathy yet
as a part of that.
As someone who
watched Lost.
I haven't seen it either.
Didn't I say most adults?
See, I knew.
I'm sure you must, like everybody else must find it somewhere else, but Lost was definitely no.
Yeah. See, usually I'm all alone not getting their references, so... I think it's one thing to have a villain or, you know, a bad guy that's becoming more morally gray, but I think that it's less common, I would guess, in like young adult literature to have someone like the Andalites, who are at first presented almost like the way elves are in a lot of fantasy, like the ultimate, like a superior to everyone, you know, and they're like, who you want, your ideal, and then to have them kind of come down to earth as like a more ethically complicated group of beings. Yeah. And sort of a almost more literal sense too, in the way that they are very clearly like paralleling and like a metaphor for humans, you know, and how they are in their good and in their bad, which is to say you can empathize plenty with, you know, the individual Andalites whose heads we occupy, and you do, but that doesn't mean that the wider awful things that like their military or their government are doing aren't happening. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
They're like, they share a similar colonial posture.
Yes.
So, or not quite. I don't know if they're Andalite colonies. We haven't learned. Well, they got to be around.
I can't speak about anything like that, but
yeah, you're not. That wasn't for you.
I mean, the personal memo.
That is what they had on the Yerk planet, though, right?
That's true. In a way.
It's really true, actually. Yeah, you're right.
They do at least. They at least establish sort of like scientific outposts, like they were doing on the Hork-Bajir planet or the Yerk planet.
This is the thing. Yeah. But like literally, scientists are getting all hot, or the opposite of hot and bothered. They're getting
cold
like
and
all
content.
No, like they're getting particular, like a persnickety about like going to visit Titan because it's covered in water.
Yes.
And they're like, we want to send something, we want to go get readings, but it's like a lot of scientists are like, once we drop our stuff, our bacteria on this thing,
it's there.
Like, it's there. But there's like we lose so much information.
No previous historical
moments. And then
moments.
there's also Elon Musk, who's like, I'm just gonna shoot my car at Mars. I'm gonna shoot my shot at Mars.
What's the worst that can happen?
What were you saying, Eddie?
I just said there's no previous historical moment where we went somewhere and introduced a lot of bad things and had
that's never happened. Obviously,
No. I mean, but there's probably some people. No, you're right.
Anyway,
Science hadn't been invented yet.
Science hadn't been invented yet.
I was also going to say, like, sort of building off the point earlier about how the series very intentionally goes out of its way to make you empathize with these different characters, while also showing, them as very flawed or outright wrong. I think that's one of the reasons why Cassie herself is a very important character, and why I think it's really interesting to have her in this book have this interaction with this Yerk, where she is dealing so much with the violence that she has done as a person, for the sake of something that, is to help other people, certainly, but is still, she can't ignore the fact that by doing that, she is hurting innocent beings at the same time. Like, that is something they just inherently can't escape.
Yeah.
And she has been wrestling with that for a while now.
Yeah.
And I like how you can see that in the background of the last few books as well. Like from 16 and 18 too, I think.
Yeah. Was 15 Fenestra?
That was 16, I think.
16.
Yeah.
That's the scene I'm thinking about.
And she's struggling with her not her gradual readiness to do that violence. And it's disturbing to her.
She had to work up the gumption to talk to Gump at the end of the book. Oh, Gump.
And Megamorphs 2 as well with the T. I mean, some of these moments actually get called back to in this book. Yeah. And I love that about this book is I love whenever, because a lot of them have to feel like a one and done. They're kind of removed from all the others, and except for like the most important ways. But this one really feels like it's kind of meditating on what's happened for Cassie in these like past books.
Yeah,
and even that we get the book 10 callback with Eric the Chi. Yeah.
Yes, yes, and not to like derail it on another note, but I even love the fact that Zone 91 gets a call out.
Yes,
I love that. I love so much that there is somebody else who knows that Visser 3 is so obsessed with it and thinks that it is hilarious.
Yeah,
love it.
Yeah, that is very satisfying because I actually really like that book.
Yeah, I like that one too. I think it's fun.
I really like
I found out, that was like a hated. I remember it's like people were all over it's like wait till you find the Andalite toilet book, and then I read it and I was like, this book is great.
This book is so lit.
Great. This book is really funny. It's a lot of fun.
I'm
get a sense of humor.
I'm certainly biased because I read it when I was a young kid, which is the target audience. So but I always really liked the fact that it could be both very, very funny and very, very serious.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be just one or the other. And generally, I think it balances those tones pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's pretty successful.
It's all how you feel about this, like, Scooby-Doo-esque ending when they're being chased across the amusement park. I love that. I also think it just makes for a...
What theme park did you picture, Eddie? when that was happening because I know which one I
probably
pictured.
The same one that you did because we grew up there.
I pictured Sesame Place.
Yeah.
They have a big parade at Sesame Place.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
okay.
Which is what made it like link. Anyway, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I cut you off for the stupidest things. I'm sorry.
Love Sesame Place.
What do you think of so we have all these big arguments that happen in this book. And you really get to see, I love these moments because, and I think we talk about this in the episode too, you get like a little check-in on where Cassie's relationship is with each character.
Yes.
Yeah, and I guess I'm just curious, what do you think of, because Cassie seems like she is a pretty controversial character in the fandom. But
she
you also
is, unfortunately,
in these moments, and also Cassie feels controversial in the book itself, and with the other Animorphs, maybe Marco's the other one who kind of Marco or Rachel also.
Well, Marco's so wild.
Yeah,
in this book, Marco
Marco's so wild.
I was actually writing up a bunch of notes before this about my thoughts about different character interactions and stuff like that. Pardon me one moment, I have to cough.
Oh, I usually just do that straight into my microphone.
Well, I figured it's easier for editing. But anyway, and I think there are so many really, really interesting little insights about the characters and interactions with the characters in this one in particular, in part because Cassie is who she is, and she is able to read them in a certain way. Which doesn't necessarily mean that, she's 100% correct in the way that she reads them all the time, but she does get a lot, right on her intuition in that regard. And I think that there is just a really complex dynamic between all of them. Like you were talking about Marco, I think he really is so interesting in this book as well. I mean, just toward the end, the fact that he's the one who ultimately steps in and saves Karen, as it were, in that moment when she's being attacked again, I think is so interesting. And I think it really ties into the fact, two things. One, that he was the one who first came across them, and he had this initial reaction to doing so. And when it switches to Jake's point of view, he has this really interesting thought about Marco in general. He says this thing, he has this quote I really like where he's talking about how you could say that Marco is smart or efficient, or you could say that he's ruthless. He's not mean or cruel. He just gets from point A to Z faster than most people. And that's what he did in that moment, when he first came upon them. He came to his conclusion. But then after he's given time to reflect, when he's caught in this moment again where he sees this girl in trouble, and he is reflecting on what Cassie has done and what he saw of their interaction before, I think it's really interesting that he then chooses to jump in and prevent this girl and this Yeerk from being killed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In spite of what he said before.
Yeah. It's also funny that when you point that line out, because having trouble getting from, what was it, A to Z is exactly what Cassie struggled. This book is kind of Cassie getting stuck midway through the alphabet. That's what all of these conversations are with Karen. It's all the stuff that Marco's kind of not sitting with. So he's a really interesting contrast with Cassie in that way.
Yeah, they really are. They're sort of almost like two sides of the same coin in a weird way, where they both do have this sort of understanding about people and what's likely to happen. And they both tend to be characters who have a lot of involvement in planning in different ways, with the things that happen in the series and the things that they do, to intercept the Yeerks or whatever. But they go about it in different ways. And they often kind of butt heads. But at the same time, there's still this sort of intrinsic bond and care between them because they've saved each other's lives so many times. They've had this thing that's formed between them, and there have been moments where they've been there for each other, really and truly as well. Yeah. And it's hard to not be, close with someone after all of that. Yeah. Regardless of the choices they make.
Yeah. Do you think that Marco or Rachel would have handled the situation totally differently with Karen?
Yes and no. I mean, it's hard to say. They certainly would have both initially reacted to try to save her before they realized that she was yerked. So they would have gotten, into the similar situation, I think. I think Rachel would probably end up doing something somewhat similar, but she would go about it in a very different way. I think you guys are right when you said that she might initially attack and get hurt or stunned, and that would end up complicating things.
Yeah.
But I think the thing about Rachel is that she's a very protective person, and that extends especially to like the people she's really close to, but also sort of more generally, in part because I think it's sort of her way of justifying how much a part of her is really into the fighting and the violence and how much she's coming to like thrive on the adrenaline of it, and that it's becoming this intrinsic part of her in a way that she's sort of both terrified by and kind of can't help but embrace at the same time. Like she loves it too. And that's why she gets so offended when Cassie does what she does in this book and quits the team, because she recognizes that she's, becoming so used to violence that she's not feeling anything about it anymore. And that it's a step toward, feeling other things potentially. And Rachel can't handle that on a lot of different levels, I think.
Yeah. She definitely bought in super hard on the so we're killing, right? We're
this is a killing kind of job.
Yeah.
But even
and it's not that she doesn't wrestle with it, I don't think.
No.
But
I think Rachel's relationship to danger and threat in general is just so different than every other character, just based upon how she moves through the world in her books. Like, it's just very obvious that there's something there. She's just
Yep. I really love her and Cassie's relationship in this book too. I think I mentioned it at one point on the Discord, but there's this one bit with them in the book that always gets me teary-eyed. It's after Cassie's made her big choice with the caterpillar and everything. And
that was talk about teary-eyed.
Yeah, for sure.
I was like, what the hell am I reading right now? I was sitting downstairs at the table. Peterson's walking in and out, and I'm like, you have to get out of here.
No, I can't be. No one can see me.
Something big is happening right now. I was like, you're interrupting my book.
But when Rachel, because she's the last one to come out, and she says some other stuff, but the last thing that really gets me is she says, I'll carry her, I'll keep her safe.
Yeah, that's a really, it really is, because that's her best friend. And even if they were in conflict up until the last moment she saw her, that doesn't change that. You know what I mean? The last time they talked before this happened
was when they burped the frog.
No, the croc.
Damn it, burp the croc. All right. We're going to take that terrible joke.
The last time they talked before this happened was...
And I'm saying this for the first time. When they burped the croc. Nothing bonds you to a friend like burping a croc.
But they really hadn't talked since they fought earlier in book 19 about Rachel being like, you're saying you would rather doom an entire civilization to death than become like me. And Rachel still is like... I'm not, if Cassie says, she trusts you, I'm not going to be the person who says that she was wrong. And then she's just all about, from the moment she makes the decision, she's all about protecting Cassie. It's once the decision is made, that's where we're going. The decision is made, it's done, and now it's all about how do we protect Cassie. Even if it's just as a cocoon, even if it's just as a butterfly, what can we do to make the life that Cassie has as good as possible?
Yeah, and she's so defensive of her too. Even when she's mad at her, when you go to Jake's point of view, he mentions a couple of times where for one thing, I think it's really interesting how insightful he is about all of them. When you do get into his head, he really does get where all of them are coming from. But he says something about how Marco said something he didn't mean about how Cassie wasn't a member of the team anymore, and so they weren't obligated to go looking for her, and that Rachel basically beat him up for it.
Yeah.
And like, so even though she is like, the last thing that happened was that they fought, and she is really upset with Cassie, you know, she is still like defending her, and basically every turn. And it's very, very endearing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it, like, even that argument that they have earlier in the book, I feel like Marco has a bit of this too, but I feel like part of that is that Rachel is hurt by Cassie doing, so it's like,
oh yeah,
her way of dealing with that is very like projecting it onto, yeah.
Her best friend is basically leaving her, you know, in a way, because I mean, Cassie thinks about this too. Like, she knows this means that they're not gonna be hanging out anymore. Like, if she does this, like, doing this is her basically ending their friendship, you know, and she knows that. And it's not that she, you know, comes to that choice easily, but like, it's really interesting how aware of what is happening to herself that she is, especially in comparison to like some of the other kids. Like, because in the previous books, like in 15 and 16 in particular, I think, there's always this bit with like Marco or Jake where they're like, I'm still the same. I haven't changed, right? And Cassie is so aware of how much she has changed. She isn't in denial about it, and it is terrifying her. And she is like seeing these bad changes that are happening within herself and doing what, you know, is the right choice for her. Like, this is a bad thing for me. I should stop doing this, you know?
And to model that behavior is, and I mean, she does end up joining back up for the greater good or whatever, but like, to actually have a character in a book like this say, I'm done, and I mean it, and mean it. Like, and she got brought back through a series of events, but like, it was the right thing for her to do, to make that choice when she made it. And the book doesn't try to pretend that she was running away by doing it. Marco and to some extent Rachel accuse her of doing that, but I don't feel like the book ever takes that side.
No.
It is always just that Cassie is doing what she needs to protect herself.
Well, and it's one of the things that I think is really interesting about the series as a whole is that, unlike a lot of other things that are aimed at like the specific age range, or even really like younger people in general, is that it doesn't really present it as being a power fantasy. Like, there are certainly aspects of it that are really fun and interesting and cool. And, you know, it's not like they want you, you know, when they're describing like flying like a bird, you know, they want the kid to enjoy that, you know, so it's not as if there's no aspects of wish fulfillment in it or whatever. But the aspects of it that have to do with the war are 100% not wish fulfillment. Morphing can be freeing and fun in certain contexts. Being an Animorph is not fun ever.
No.
Yeah, and
it's just really interesting that like it does that for a kid's series, to like, you know, to have like not it be this like enjoyable thing, and like to have the kids know that when they're reading it. At least I did. I knew that, like, not just by this book. I was like, man, this is really awful for them. Like, this is really sad. And I enjoyed that aspect of it. Like, it was part of what made the series engaging, you know, for me. But I was very aware of the fact that it was taking an awful toll on all of them.
God, it's really hitting me like all the 90s superhero kid shows. Like, it's like, you know, you never really... Like,
especially in the 90s, that's
Rangers,
true.
The Power Rangers aren't like, damn, that really sucked that we had to kill that guy in between periods.
And they are like, they're very much that same like model of like that team, you know, like they fit into those archetypes, like they're meant to. And it's really interesting the way that the series fleshes them out within those archetypes, and what fulfilling those roles actually does to them in the context of always being fighting, and always being paranoid, and always seeing and committing awful violence all the time.
Okay, I was just going to say, and in Cassie's case, being like the therapist of the team. It's like she's the emotional heart of the team. She's who everybody comes to when they have a problem. And so the second Cassie has a problem, everything starts to fall apart because nobody knows how to deal with things without Cassie there.
Well, and she carries like the awareness of what is happening like to a degree with the others. Like obviously she doesn't understand everybody perfectly, and there are others that would be harder to read, like Tobias, or Axe. But like even then, like she does have like a lot of understanding and empathy and knowledge of the things that they're all going through and the ways they're all changing going through this. And she has been the one that they have often come to, like that bit with Axe in book 8, where she comforted him. When Jake was having in book 16 after he almost died, she was the only one who recognized what he was going through and went to him and knows that he is having this kind of like internal crisis and feels like he can't truly confide in anybody about it,
Yeah.
Like she is carrying all of this stuff in addition to her own difficulties.
Yeah. Am I wrong that it's also Marco's book? This scene that stuck with the three of us so much, where I think Cassie comes to Marco's apartment and sees the leaves caught in the pool.
The dead leaves in the empty pool.
That's a Cassie book, actually.
I was like, I think that's the Cassie book.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
She was scared about making a decision.
Yeah,
And she went to see him for some reason, and he was like, "You're gonna have to make a choice. It sucks." And we're all scared, but you're gonna have to make a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's rough.
Yeah. TJ, can we get your thoughts a little bit about the choice that Cassie makes in this book with morphing into a caterpillar? Yeah. Just because that's such a pivotal moment. Yeah.
It is. Let's see. Well, I'll talk about it from a couple of different contexts, because we mentioned it a little bit earlier, but Cassie is a character who, unfortunately and unfairly, in my opinion, gets the most hate.
Yeah.
As far as like characters,
how are we gonna fix this?
Like, not like in terms of characters you're supposed to hate, but like even to this day, it is very common on like, the fandom spaces to see people talking about how they don't understand Cassie or don't like Cassie or find the choices that she makes to be frustrating to the point of like just not liking her, or really engaging with her as a character. And I was actually looking through I can't remember if I think it was the Harak Delest website. Which has like old interviews and stuff like that.
I'm not allowed on that website.
Yeah.
Right,
tons of spoilers.
Yeah.
But there were these interviews and like letters that Kay Applegate was answering. And I remember scrolling through them. And even there, like back then, there were people being like, I don't understand Cassie. Why did she do this? And like, I don't like her at all. She's my least favorite and things like that. And, Kay Applegate, crazy. Answered these like gracefully and basically just tried to explain Cassie's opinion. Like there was one I remember that was talking about the thing that Cassie always brings up about them morphing like other humans and stuff like that. And they were expressing like frustration that she brings this up as something to like consider at all, basically. And Kay Applegate was basically like, I don't disagree with you necessarily, but I also don't think that what she's saying is wrong either. And here's why I think it's important to bring up.
Yeah.
And like, she basically just like, wrote out that whole thing. And I think
that's way better than I would have done.
People who don't appreciate Cassie, in my opinion, are not engaging fully and properly with the series, because Cassie is so important to so many of the themes that the series has, which is intentionally asking you to think about these things and ask these questions.
Yeah.
And, it's not only her point of view where you get these things, but she thinks about it in a different way than the other characters and, makes different choices than them as a result. And I think she gets often unfairly maligned because of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I feel like a more modern read of the books would like, with like IFS or like internal family systems or parts therapy, like Cassie doesn't have to be such a one thing. Like she, in the book, she comes off a single note because like these are kids' books and we're trying to put a space for like big emotions and using your empathy and like stuff like that. But it's like, she obviously contains, I don't know.
I think there's a lot of points.
She contains multitudes. And she's not just her one note.
There's points in the book where that becomes like really clear, but you have to be engaging with her books to notice them. Like, you can't just be like, it's a Cassie book, I'll skim it or whatever. And I get that kids like the action, kids like the idea that things aren't complicated and are like simple, good and bad. And while all the books question that, I feel like Cassie's books question that the most.
Yes.
And so it's like, why are we ruminating on this? We all know we have to fight the Yeerks. We all know, but like, no, that's the meat of the series. That's where like the internal struggle that the books are trying to like take you through to blossom into a beautiful butterfly are occurring. You know what I mean? Like, that's where the conflict that we see in other books is actually talked about.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's part of it. They're more of a show don't tell kind of reader. A lot of readers don't like to be told how things are happening, but it's so important to get Cassie's perspective on things because she really does see things from such a different perspective as the other kids.
I think a lot of it is people leaning into like really, really strictly like logical perspectives about stuff and being like, well, she did this and that endangered the team, as if like the other characters have never done anything to endanger the rest of the team by making a stupid choice.
And we're going to have hearings about all of those incidents. Like,
look, we all remember Deal and Dan. We all remember Rachel going in to save this bird and becoming an elephant and telling someone she was with the elephant police. And yet, like, that's okay because it was funny and it was an action sequence. But
and every one of them has a moment like that. Every moment. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. She just kind of seems to get held to this standard that the other characters don't a lot of the time. And it's often really frustrating as a result to engage with certain parts of the fandom because of that. But I've always loved Cassie, and I've always empathized with her point of view, and I enjoyed reading her books precisely because she was someone, like you asked before what I thought like someone like Rachel or Marco would do. And while I definitely think it's interesting to think about, I also think there is something to say for the fact that this is something that would only happen because it was Cassie here to do this. And Cassie is somebody who would look at this situation and understand what she is expected to do, what the smart thing to do would be, but also to look at what's happening and think, maybe I could find another way out of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also, I'm going to try so hard not to get off topic. I'm doing it. I wanted to say, like, I've probably expressed on the podcast frustration towards Cassie in those moments as well. Like, I can actually remember back in book, the Fenestra book.
Yeah, 16.
Right? Like, I remember being like, oh, now, why now? Like, why? And it's like, 'cause drama, Chris, 'cause books have drama. But it is really, like, incredible how it's, like, basically all the big turns and growths in my personal life, like, pretty much come out of, like, that version of slowing down. Like, that level of frustration that I felt is, like, so familiar to me now. Whereas, like, as a youth, I just probably hadn't done it the 8 or 30 or 40 times I've now done it, which is just, like, really, it's interesting to think about, like, who those books... Like, sometimes you engage with kids' media and there's parts of it that are for you later when you're revisiting it.
Yeah.
And Cassie is, like, more of a life through line than some of the other stuff that happens in the books.
Yeah.
Like, not to say that the other characters don't also have that. Just to say that, like...
Yeah, I get what you mean. Definitely.
I think we started this thread with, we sort of, like, veered into the Cassie controversy, but I think we were saying about Cassie's decision to become a caterpillar at the end of the book.
Oh, yes.
Sorry, we definitely went on a tangent.
That's fine. We had this on our list of things we wanted to talk about, too, so we just did
So Cassie becoming a caterpillar. Well, I remember reading as a kid and definitely...
Can we get Cassie Pillar to stick? Can we, like... So I just kind of want to make Cassie Pillar happen.
Oh,
that sounds so much cuter than the actual experience of reading it was.
Yeah.
It's my emotional support Cassie Pillar, if you don't mind. No, you don't have to say it. I'm just
No, I know. I definitely remember reading it as a kid and being like in disbelief that it was happening. And at the time, too, like my brother had other books, but I didn't have, all of them in front of me, and I hadn't like gone through and looked at every single one of them. They were just on his bookshelf in his room,
Yeah.
And I wasn't generally allowed in there. And so I didn't know if there were more Cassie books. Right. I had no idea.
There's this one book by Cassie. Can I borrow the Cassie book?
Well, definitely, at that age and without being able to see that there were definitely other Cassie books.
Yeah.
It left me being like, oh my God, is this like actually how she exits the series?
Yeah.
And that definitely hit me. It was absolutely like, I was definitely like crying while I was reading it for sure.
Yeah.
Me too, and I knew she wasn't going to be gone.
Oh, it still definitely gets me teary now.
I was sure she was dead. I was sure. I was sure that everybody on the Discord had been trolling the three of us the entire time and be like, just you wait for book 19.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's very emotionally affecting now as well. I think it's a really interesting choice for her to make. And like I said before, I think what happens here is the kind of thing that only Cassie as a character would really choose to do.
Yeah.
Like I'm just laughing because the other thing she's chosen to do is fall from the sky as a whale.
She used to do that.
She used to do that, and no, continue on though.
She does actually have a pretty consistent pattern of making like interesting choices involving morphing.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, she's very creative.
And I think that's a cool, unique thing about her character in general. But like that she is willing to make this choice to stand by her convictions so strongly. And like she thinks that there's a possibility that something could change. But even then, the something that could change, she thinks it's just that she's going to live the rest of her life as a butterfly.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't think that she's going to be able to, that will reset like the morphing clock the way that it ends up happening.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like she doesn't think that's going to happen at all. Like she thinks at best what is now going to happen is she gets to have a few short weeks of life where she gets to experience color and sight and stuff like that again.
Yeah.
Before she dies. Like that's her happy ending that she thinks she's going to get. And she chooses to do this thinking that at best that is what she is going to get. And so that's one of the reasons why I do defend her character so strongly, because I feel like people who don't really engage with her don't see like how strong of a character she really is and how brave she is. And also how interesting it is that she is willing to make such reckless choices too. Like Rachel is someone who has a reputation of being very reckless, and she is, but in a lot of ways, Cassie can also be like just as reckless as Rachel in different ways.
Yeah.
Like she absolutely has that in her as well, where she can make these big snap decisions in the moment too, that are like really brave and wild that other characters just wouldn't make.
Do you know, it's funny because the series is so filled with leaps of faith. Like Cassie's taking a leap of faith when she does this. But these are books with action sequences where these kids are putting their lives on their line constantly. But the book does treat, and it makes total sense why, but it treats this decision as so much more consequential and than a lot of these other ones that are played more for like the thrill or like, but they're actually constantly like Cassie's not going to die immediately from this, but they could die immediately from a lot of the things that they did. Like,
but that's a might. And the decision she's making here, she thinks she is definitely committing to live the rest of her short life as a butterfly in the hopes that she has changed one person's mind.
Yeah.
And that is such an unbelievably... It's like radical peace. It's like reckless nonviolence.
There's that one line that I really love where she's talking to Aftran and she says, peace between like one human and one yerk. Yeah. You know, like she says, I know I can't do peace between both of our peoples, but what about just us? You know, this little piece that she can create. And it really does make it like feel so powerful, and it ties in so well with like how intimate the book is in general.
Yeah.
It's a really, really beautiful book in that way, and I feel like obviously then, you know, there's the conclusion where we get Cassie back and it's all, you know, but we didn't know and she didn't know. Crucially, She didn't know that that was going to be an option.
Apparently, and it's like one of the facts Axe didn't know is that caterpillars turn into butterflies.
Yeah.
It's like when he read that freaking Guinness Book of World Records, there was no most butterflies eaten.
Yeah, or something. So he's like, oh, she morphed naturally, which, I will get into, but
it is so frustrating.
But good.
I'm very mad at Axe.
Yes.
I'm very mad at Axe.
The idea of replacing your current mass with the mass in Z space and the idea of turning yourself into a liquid and then reconstituting as a different creature, I think are very different.
The only way I will accept this is if we all ascribe to the idea that caterpillars shove their caterpillar mass into Z space before turning into butterflies.
Okay, and then they just sever the link. They just sever the link. Oh my god! So everything
and then they fly onto a
Z-space,
windshield
everything
of a big
you hit in Z-space
ship.
is a caterpillar. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. That's what shooting stars are: caterpillar carcasses falling down to Earth from Z space. Exactly.
Yeah. But it does become this it's not just like a leap of faith, but it's like an act of faith. It's like a very beautiful moment for Cassie's character that and it is I like what you said, CJ, that about how Cassie solves problems her own way, often using morphing, but this is a way of solving. None of the other Animorphs would have solved this problem this way, or not about these events this way. So yeah.
I do think that there's a fun nihilism that, I don't know, we'll talk about this when we're back in the book series, but I am she's pretty screwed all book. And so it's it really is she's well, I may as well try. Yeah. Worst case scenario, I'm trying to kill this person.
Yeah,
later.
She's escaping consequences either way. So
CJ, when Miranda and I were texting earlier, though, we did come up with a scenario that I'm curious to get your thoughts on. So if we've learned this, that
oh my god, I'm in the dark.
Butterflies, so the caterpillar resets the morph clock with their. If they were stuck in a Skrit morph, and then they went into the cocoon
and became a nah.
Yeah,
that's a good question.
Oh, so we just have to find a species that morphs very quickly, and then we can and then we morph that, and then we can morph.
See, I thought this would be a perfect infiltration mission. You get Nothlited as a Skrit, work your way up, get put on a really good ship.
Nothlited as a Skrit. Is that getting Skrit pills?
Skrit pills. Okay. Yeah, I guess you can't. Okay. I guess Nothlit isn't really a verb, but
no, I like it.
But
so
then you get in your cocoon and you make sure that you time your cocoon to be on a really important ship. And then when you come out as a
I say this all the time.
You get all the information you need. Everybody trusts you. They watched you turn from a Skrit to a nah, but you've secretly regained your morphing ability.
You would have to.
I think it could be good.
What we've learned is that the Skrit nah, they tend to cocoon in really inconvenient places, and I think just so you make sure you don't get tossed aside and you have to be very careful actually about.
Yeah, this would be only the most the highest level. I mean, we have all said that it's ridiculous that the only use they could see for this was spying, but if they weren't doing this as morphing spies, what are you even doing? What are you doing? I guess they weren't really worried about the Skrit nah, though. They were the Skrit nah just go around stealing people's stuff. It's not really that big a deal.
Somebody's very worried about the Skrit nah. Frankly, I'm very worried about the Skrit nah.
Sure, they keep abducting humans, apparently.
Yeah, that's true. I think if we were to go by the logic, as it were, set by this precedent, potentially that would work.
We'd have to fight it in the courts.
It's a little hard to say, though, because I guess we don't know much about the cocooning process of the Skrit nah.
That's true.
But if you read into how a butterfly is formed, it really is very much it completely breaks down and is rebuilt into an entirely other being. And so at least for me personally, it's not a point that I tend to get too stuck up on as far as the logic of how it all works. I can buy it well enough as resetting the clock, as you put it.
And did you hear there was that radio lab? I forget how old it is. It's probably a very old radio lab, but they've proven that caterpillars can remember things from the caterpillar stage, which they had no idea was
interesting.
possible.
I had not.
Yeah, I'll see if I hope that's true.
I wonder if it's like it's like an epigenetics thing where it's like you sort of asexually reproduce in your own way and you become your own child and you have the memories genetically that were stored by your you parent.
No, I don't. I mean, we're speculating now.
It's but as though we have not been the whole time.
Yeah. No, I know.
This has now gone into the realm of non-scientific speculation. I think we need to cut it off.
Everything I've said has been pure science, including that thing about shooting stars.
More than anything, though, I do think, like, logic aside, it's important that Cassie, is able to come back. Not just that she's still part of the team, but I feel like it would undercut the point that the book's trying to make if she was, like, punished, as it were, for, like, making this choice. You know, the fact that she did this knowing that, she might, at best, just live out a short life as a butterfly. And she did that, in the hope of making, this peace happen and helping this little girl go free. And she was willing to make that choice. I think it's important that she is rewarded for it, I guess, like on a narrative level.
Totally agree. Yeah.
Just as far as the themes and like for the kids reading too.
Yeah. No, I don't know that there's really, I can't think of another character so far in the series that's had that kind of narrative arc. I think it's, you're totally, like, it actually feels like a very special narrative arc that Cassie's granted here. It's like kind of like, something remarkable happens for her, and it is. I think we've wondered at times where the book stands in terms of you get these different perspectives from these different kids, and sometimes it can feel like the heart of the series is closer to one kid rather than another, and I think sometimes Cassie's. We've read books, I think mostly by other narrators that we've wondered. Oh, is it kind of frowning upon what Cassie's saying at this moment? I think we had that in Megamorphs 2 around the middle of the book before we got closer to the end. Just like, what does the book series, what does K.A. Applegate actually believe? And I think this book tells us a lot about what the series is thinking about, but also what it believes and how it feels about what these characters are saying, that Cassie gets this kind of ending here.
Yeah, I would agree.
It's like it feels like
or non-ending, as it were.
A non-ending, yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't thought actually about whether this is the last time we see Karen. That's something I hadn't.
I have no comment.
Really? They got to bring her back. They brought back everybody else. Crazy Helen, Irene, the dolphin trainer. They brought them all back.
It was Eileen.
Damn it! Dude, I am bad at remembering.
I guess it feels like you can tell that this book loves Cassie. That's what it is. Like, and that's what I think. I find that very moving. Like reading the ending of this book.
Yeah, I agree, and they definitely do. Like K.A. Applegate herself identifies a lot with Cassie, and so even though she doesn't necessarily agree 100%, with everything that Cassie like does within the books, obviously, like she's making choices for her as a character. Like she identifies with her the closest and has a lot of love for her. And I think that shows at a lot of different points in the series. And you can see that too, like through the other characters, like even sometimes if they're upset with her or disagree with her, with a lot of them, you can tell that there's a lot of love and respect there still, especially I think with characters like Rachel and Jake. I think Jake and Cassie are honestly so cute to me. Yeah. And a lot of that's my like childhood feelings coming through, but rereading it as an adult, I do still really enjoy a lot of their interactions. And he has a lot of really nice bits in this book, I think, where he understands a lot of what her thought process is and why she does the things that she does. And he has so much like respect for who she is as a person.
Yeah.
And that's just like at the core also of why he likes her. And that's one of the things I find endearing about them, like in general, is that they like each other because of like who the other is, that they at their core were people who like want to help others and are kind. And they both, struggle a lot with the things that they have to do because of this war that they're in. And they see so much of the ways that the other is struggling, but there's only so much that they can do to help them. Especially Jake, because, he has to make certain choices as a leader. Like when he like, he makes a choice, you know, when it switches to his point of view, like, where he's like, we can't let Cassie get away when, you know, she has let Aftran infest her.
Yeah.
And he feels like completely sick over it. Like, I think there's a great description that Kay uses, something about like how he feels like he's swallowed broken glass or something like that.
Ooh, that line does sound familiar. Yeah.
And like, you can tell how much saying that like is so hard for him, but he does it because he knows that it's what the choice he has to make as the leader, as much as he, you know, deeply, deeply loves Cassie. Like, he has to make that choice. And but because he also loves her and understands her so much, when he gets there and he sees what's happened, he's, you know, angry and upset, as they all are, but he doesn't want to take her choice away from her. He doesn't want to, you know, do anything that would upset that. He wants to do his best to honor it and to take care of her as best as they can from here on out. And I just think it's very sweet that he has like so much, respect and empathy for her as well.
Totally.
Yeah.
I can imagine Jake and Cassie, because I do feel like they're two of the kids that have the best grasp on what their friends are, like who they are and what they're thinking and feeling, that they spend time like sorting the rest of the party into like Myers-Briggs types and things like that. Like trying to guess.
Yeah. They're all up on the astrology. It's like,
they're basically group mom and dad.
Yes.
They are.
Like,
They really are.
It's true.
So they definitely like have discussions about like the group, like they're their kids, basically like, oh my God, Rachel was doing the most reckless shit today. You won't believe it. And then like, just wait till you hear what Axe ate today.
Are you going to talk to him or am I going to talk to him? Like,
exactly.
What do we think?
It's your turn. It's your turn to talk to him.
Do we need to talk to him together? Is this a both of us? Do we think this warrants a both of us talk?
Yeah, this might be a both of us.
Have we had I don't feel like we've had ones where they had disagreements, but I'm hoping in future books we get like we get one from somebody else's perspective, so we get a mom and dad are fighting type vibe.
No comment.
I love the no comment.
Cool, dude. Cool. Very cool. Very cool. Well, you know,
is there anything else from this book or like broadly with the Animorphs, CJ, that you want to talk about?
Oh gosh.
And I mean, you know, there are like opportunities that I hope there are opportunities.
Oh, I mean, sure.
I hope the podcast continues.
Yes. And the Discord. There's always the Discord. Remember.
And then also like, you know, we'll you know, which we'll upload our AI consciousnesses to after we perished in the great Animorph Wars.
Well, I think, like we talked about the choice that she made a little bit to let Aftran infest her, but not like a lot.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that probably gets her the most hate within the fandom.
Interesting.
Oh, I thought that was the coolest thing.
Because especially, once she had...
so baller.
Once she had done once she had logicked out that you get all of their story if you let them in, it felt like such a great... I mean, it was a leap of faith, but it felt like such a great way to actually try to understand Aftran.
It's like a true act of empathy. And also I feel like people, when they get mad about it, they're acting as if she's doing this with some Yeerk that she just like met 2 seconds ago. As opposed to one that she has been having these discussions with over the past few days and clearly sees is having like this conflict about like being a part of all of this. And she's absolutely like taking a gamble, and she knows that. And there's this whole, you know, chapter afterward where she's beating herself up about it, knowing like the terrible consequences that could come from doing this, because that's certainly true. But I don't feel like, you know, the fact that there could have been bad consequences is a reason to like hold this over her, as if it wasn't also like this really powerful demonstration of empathy and bravery on her part to make this choice and believe that the connection she had fostered with this other being was enough for them to see her and recognize her and make the right choice.
And
I think when you compare it to like the boldness of, say, a choice of like leaving Fenestra alive, which admittedly there were some things that was like, it's easier to leave him alive because XYZ, but like it was also notably bad. Like there were bad things that were going to happen, and they just took a risk that he wasn't going to rat them all out on their locations and where they were and all those things. And I don't see a lot of hate for Jake for not killing Fenestra. I mean, I'm sure there are people who are like, he should have fucking just ripped his throat out. But like, that everybody's like, oh, that was a cool, calm, logical choice. But when it's like an empathy-based choice, I guess there are people who struggle to fit themselves into those shoes. And so maybe it's a little harder. But like, I think compared to several other risky choices that have been made by all the characters in this book, it's certainly up there, but it's not like multitudes worse than like something anybody else has done.
Probably similarly dangerous and reckless as Axe eating all those cigarette butts. It's,
on a smaller scale, but yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I my brain works in metaphors.
Yes.
Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra. Shaka when the walls fell.
I love it for this thing that we've seen, and I hope it keeps showing up. But like when Visser 3 infests Aldrea, I think it is, in Hork-Bajir Chronicles, and that is how Visser 3's story ends up getting transmitted. And it almost seems like this, it feels weird to call it a moment of intimacy, but like, because it's like such a violating thing also, but like that transference that happens, it doesn't just affect Aldrea, it affects Visser 3 as well. Like it infects the person who's infesting. Like it's a thing that they can't control or like fully account for about that act. And just that happens where they both are forced to, there's like a nakedness, like this like vulnerability that comes with it.
Yeah.
And their response to that vulnerability is like to then attempt to continually dominate, like rather than like, which is
true.
Just,
in other cases, not this one. Yes,
no, not in this case.
Yes.
In
but
this
it's like
case,
it's like in the cases where we've seen where people have yerked other people, it's like the thing is you can never then give up that control because like that,
if you do, you have to admit that other things that you did were also wrong, and nobody likes
which
to
is
do
like
that.
when you're a kid and they're like, if you tell one lie, you gotta keep lying.
It's true.
Never stop lying, and that was what I was.
I bet Yerks actually have. I bet there's Yerk burnout and Yerk
certainly.
That, like they're like, well, those feelings that came there, they aren't real, or something like that. Like,
that's just transference.
Those are just your
you
controller.
And your host.
Exactly.
I think there's something also very interesting about Aftran as a character too,
for sure,
because they, Aftran makes this choice to, after infesting Cassie and experiencing things like flying, and having this opportunity to be given anything that, she could want, like she could deliver Cassie on a silver platter and get anything, basically.
Yeah.
She chooses instead to, in turn, sort of take a leap of faith as well, that Cassie is someone who will make the choice that she ends up making. But then at the same time, when it comes down to it, Aftran also tries to beg Cassie to stop.
Yeah.
She tries at the very end, crying, to convince her to stop, to morph out, to go back to being human, that she's proved her point, that she doesn't want this for her.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really interesting that even though, we only have Aftran in this book, as far as I am saying, that, she's a really, really interesting character, and the choices she makes and the ways that she parallels Cassie are really cool. And that they're both struggling with the violence that is happening. And because they meet and have this interaction with each other, again, that's why it could really only be Cassie in this moment, because they specifically meet each other and have this chance encounter. They are able to both come away from this with this renewed sense of purpose in why they are making the choices they make going forward.
Yeah.
It's interesting that I feel like Aftran I think Aftran's actually dealing with something with Cassie that's kind of similar to the other Animorphs, which is that Cassie's moral certainty, or just the way that Cassie lets herself be guided by that, can feel like a superiority complex kind of to the Aftran and the other Animorphs. And just the way that Aftrans tested with that, and then like I feel like that moment where she is begging Cassie to morph back is like kind of getting past that feeling of feeling judged or like you're being perceived as less than, or just feeling as like less than because you're not like engaging with that. I don't want to call it humanity, but that like the more moral part of like that scenario, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I hadn't thought about that, but it's just like that's what it's bringing after I love that moment where Aftrans like begging Cassie to morph back and Cassie can't hear her, right? It's like yeah.
Right, she's already lost her hearing.
Yeah.
Well, she's not only done that, but she's basically like, you know, she's very depressed. She doesn't think there's really going to be a way out of this that's like remotely happy for herself. So she's just like, well, I'm just going to let the caterpillar mind take over.
Yeah.
So I don't think even if she really had like ears, she would have been like listening, you know?
Yeah. She just kind of resigned herself to her fate. She was like, I'm hoping I'm making the right choice. And that's
why like 9 Inch Nails as her favorite band.
Right?
Is so lit.
That's
so
one of my
good.
favorite things that like the fandom has just adopted as like being true. That,
It's so true.
Yeah.
It feels true.
Yeah.
Sometimes fanon gets it right.
True.
Sometimes just because they didn't bring it up that much in canon doesn't mean it's not true.
Yeah.
Well, you just know that Rachel's like really into like Riot Girl shit.
Oh, yeah.
And so I can just imagine her and Cassie both just rocking out really hardcore to music when they've had sleepovers.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Which really comes through in the artwork that you've shared, by the way, in the Discord.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've loved sharing fan art in the Discord. That's been fun.
Yeah.
Well, shall we start? How should we wind this?
How do we? We always say.
How do we land?
How do you land?
How do we land
the dome ship?
The dome ship.
Yeah.
We've never seen a dome ship land.
We've never seen a dome ship.
We've only seen it crash.
We've only seen it crash.
The Andalites never thought they'd be landing.
That's true.
That's also
We're
true.
gonna have to crash this thing.
But
what do you mean? It's a dome ship. It goes.
they didn't realize that until they were in the air. Yeah.
Oh, you know, it'd be nice to go down sometimes.
You know what? That's how they lost the third Wright brother.
They put him in a balloon a little too early. Just straight up and away.
This was so much fun, though, CJ. Like,
this
such
was.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for jumping in. I know
support.
it's
and
for writing us so many emails. Yeah,
and I gotta say, it doesn't always happen, but there is so much of you. Having now talked to you over Zoom as well, there's so much of you in those emails. Like I feel like that's like a very nice thing to find. That like that it's just like that consistency is really cool.
Yeah,
so.
some people come off very differently.
Yes,
in
your colleagues often do. Yeah,
that's Zelda.
Did you just refer to the dogs as colleagues?
Sorry, I let it slip. Yeah.
That looks more like an Australian Shepherd mix, if I had to guess. Maybe
Hi, Zelda.
She's a mini Australian Shepherd.
Oh my God,
Zelda.
that face!
Wow!
That face.
Wow!
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Anidorks. We'll be back soon with lots more to say. Until the Andalites return, or at least until next time. See you soon!